Adobe Firefly is the all-in-one creative studio with AI-powered image and video editing for today's creative process. Built for creators of every kind, Firefly helps you generate, edit, and experiment fast. Because the asks aren't getting smaller, the budgets aren't getting bigger, and the timelines, oh yeah, still tight. With all the best creative AI models in one place, Firefly brings your ideas to life. Unlock a better way to make with Adobe Firefly.
Hey there, this is Wythe Marshall from the Stillfleet Studio. We put together a little podcast called Why We Roll, and now we're very proud to be part of the network Podderation. So if you're listening to one of Podderation's other great shows, and you're interested in TTRPGs specifically, that's tabletop role-playing games, you might be interested in our show. Why We Roll is all about how you make TTRPGs, what makes them fun, different kinds of stories you can tell with TTRPGs, and even the business, so the practical advice side. So if any of that sounds appealing, whether you're a GM, you want to design your homebrew game, or you're interested in getting in the industry, why don't you head over to Why We Roll, check us out. We really, really appreciate it, and keep making awesome stuff.
Welcome to Board Gamers Anonymous, the podcast where everyone's welcome to the table, but of course, as always, no one knows whose turn it is. This is Chris.
And this is Tim.
And this is episode 578. If you like point salad, try these other games. We'd like to thank all our Patreon backers for helping us bring you a brand new episode. Welcome back, friends. We're so glad to have you here this week. And once again, we have Tim. Hey, Tim.
How's it going, Chris?
So glad to have you back here this week. Clearly, we did not scare you off from last week.
Yeah, I managed to get a few nights' sleep after the podcast was done, so here I am, back and refreshed.
Excellent. So you felt a little bit the power, the glory that is podcasting for Board Gamers Anonymous. You got a little bit of that?
Yeah, my friends noticed my head has enlarged and I barely fit through the doorway, but I haven't gained any other powers yet, but we'll see.
Nice. That's the beginning. No one tells you about that. There is, as a doctor, you should know some side effects will apply, but eventually they will fade away. So, nonetheless, it's a good experience. It's a good vibe. Everybody out there. Also, people that you have not met out there in the world when you go to a convention will recognize your voice, but not your face. So they'll walk past you or talk to you, and then you'll say something. They'll be like, oh, "I know you," and I'm like, "How?" And they're like, "Your voice." I'm like, "Where?" Oh, no, yeah, that's right. I do a podcast. That makes a lot of sense. But it's always incredibly well welcomed, but it's also surreal at the same time, Tim.
Fair enough. It might be a few episodes before that becomes a reality. But
see, that is one of the special powers, Tim, is voice recognition from out there in the world. So it is a thing amongst many of the other powers. But we'll reveal a lot of that as time goes on, as we get into more of the Illuminati level episodes. But that's more of a Patreon backer episode situation, Tim, and you're not there yet. So we'll see. We'll see if you get there, man. We'll see. I'm pulling for you, though.
The superpower I'm hoping for is a higher win percentage. I'm definitely within my game group, not hitting so hot. So I forgot to give a shout out to my game group last episode, but hi, Phil, Matt, Corey. Miss you guys. And yes, you kick my ass regularly. I don't know if I can say that. Sorry.
Well, nonetheless, Tim, we'll work on that. I have some tips and tactics and tricks and gamer strategies. So, yeah, not calling out your game group. I don't know, though. That's not a good strategy. They might come for you in the next game. No, they might come for you. That's literally one of those things there. So, yeah, that's a thing. So, but that's an episode. We'll definitely do that for an episode too. Like how not to mess with your game group so they won't attack you constantly during a board game.
Yeah, metagaming at its finest.
It is, and I don't think they talk about that enough. So they worry about the broken features of a game, but they don't mention like when you attack somebody, they'll attack you for the next 3 different games, no matter what. You're just like, oh, okay, that was a thing that happened, and therefore I will be paying for that long term. So, shucks to be me, I guess. So, yeah. Nonetheless, yeah, big shout out to all the game groups out there. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for spreading the good words of Board Gamers Anonymous. Again, if you would like to join us on patreon.com/BGA, there's a lot more content there. We'll eventually get Tim on there as well, so we could talk more about great gamings and gaming strategies so that you can take down your game group in a terrible, horrendous way possible and make them cry and, hear the lamentation of their women and, you know how that kind of goes, right?
The weeping of the children.
Yeah. If you're lucky, Well, that said, Tim, let's get on to the episode. Obviously, there is so much going on in tabletop gaming. The conference season, convention season is heating up. But before that all comes into play, there is a very popular, extremely popular, I would say the second most popular Game Awards selection. Us being number one, of course, Tim. I don't know if you recognize that. We're number one. Spiritus Yaris is number 2. That's just globally identified as being such. But we want to acknowledge and celebrate number 2, which again is the Spiritus Yaris Awards. The most famous, all joking aside, the most famous gaming awards on the planet.
It's definitely something I pay attention to every year, as do many gamers. I think
Yes.
I don't always agree with their choices, but
Yes.
the games they pick are generally solidly made, I will say. Mechanically, you can trust that you're getting a decent product when you pick one of their games.
Yeah, I think if I remember back, and I'm hoping this is still the case, that they make a lot of their judgments based on the rule book. So as far as assessing the game's quality and vibes and how it runs through, how it's built, how it's organized. So I think, again, historically, that was a very big problem with tabletop games. Like, you could kind of work out how to play a game, and a game could be fun, but those rule books were nightmares back in the day. So I think it's given them a solid foundation to say their awards are typically representative of being popular fare as far as the best. Although we certainly have questioned them throughout the years, especially the heavier games.
Yeah.
So
I every year pay attention. I would say most of them end up making it into my collection and at least getting a trial. So we'll see who wins this year, and I'll probably follow that trend again.
yeah, so let's talk about it a little bit. So the Spiritus Yaris, so the game for all the gamers out there. There's a couple of nominees that are going to come down to the final selection. The first one up is Cozy Stickerville. Build your village with over 800 stickers, Tim. 800!
Reminds me when I used to collect stickers as a kid and find the right page and paste it on in there and make the story. I don't know.
Yes. This is Corey Konecka, famous Corey Konecka, making a game about stickers in a day and age where everything is 3D miniatures, which is kind of amazing.
Yeah, kind of a bold choice. I have not played this one, but I will say that my wife and 9-year-old son have been playing through and having a great time. And
Nice.
my friend Corey has been playing it with his wife and also echoes a great sort of response. He plans to play it with his wife and daughter. You can play the game twice, is my understanding, and take different forking paths. So high reviews from those I know who have played it, but I have not played it myself.
And that's a different Corey, not Corey Konecka, right? Just
Correct. That's Corey from Game Group Corey.
Yeah. All right, Corey, that's fine. Did Game Group Corey create Twilight Imperium 4th edition? Because, your Corey's fine, but come on.
He's my heavy board game loving friend, so he does play Twilight 4th edition, but he did not create it.
Probably named after Corey Konecka then, because just loved it so much, changed his name. He was like, this guy's amazing. So
definitely,
it is kind of funny that the person who created Twilight Imperium, has a game about stickers. So, but the guy's, he could do anything. He could do everything. I have not played this either. I did get a chance to see this last year at PAX, and I will acknowledge, Tim, in fact, it is a lot of stickers, and pretty much it's a farm. It's a farm with stickers, Tim. It's a stickers on a farm.
As long as I don't have to buy multiple packs to collect all the stickers,
no.
I think I'm going to be fine.
I think, did you ever play Charstone, Tim?
I did.
Okay, so let's talk some childhood trauma here, Tim. So I played Charstone, which again is a board game about a cozy little village with stickers that you put on the board. After playing that, I looked at this game and I was just like, I can't go back. Just can't go back. I can't go back. No, don't make me go back, Tim.
I also was not a fan of Charterstone, so when I say I played 2/3 of Charterstone. So,
2/3. Did you get the ending? Do you know what the ending is?
I do not actually. So,
I can't say it on the podcast because I do not want to ruin it for other people. Because I always want people to, again, if you love this game, God bless you, enjoy it. But the ending is such a twist. And I will tell you off mic in case you want to know, Tim.
Okay.
But it will rock your world. I'm just saying that right now.
My wife still may be under the impression we're returning to this at some point. So
okay.
We'll see.
I will say my game group, we played the whole thing, including the candle. Did you get to the candle, Tim?
I don't remember.
All right. You didn't get to the candle because you would remember that moment if you got to the candle. And then it was like, oh, you can continue to play this. And I was like, very excited. I was like, oh, this is such a cool idea. In fact, when it first came out, Tim, I bought the game and the recharge pack right away, both together, having not played the game. And then I played a friend's copy and I was just very disappointed with the game. Although the general premise of a Euro game that was a legacy game was just amazing. And then again, you get to the ending and it's a really weird twist, Tim. It's very weird. For people who know, they know. For people who don't know, you're probably better off because this way you can sleep at night. So I'll tell you after, Tim. You'll have to let me know if I'm exaggerating because I don't feel like I'm exaggerating, Tim.
Okay.
All right. Also, part of Specialis is Jinx-O. Jinx-O is a competitive word association game. So another party game there, Tim. Have you played this?
I have not.
I have not played this either, but it seems to be yet another very fairly common word kind of association game where you're trying to match other people in the group, which again, you've played that a lot. If you don't match anybody, you get no points. And if you match one person, you get a lot of points. That's the Jinx-O kind of situation. So it kind of reminds me a little bit of Dixit, where you're trying to match some people, but not everybody. You played that, right, Dixit?
I played Dixit, and I played Just One, which was a variation on that as well.
Yep.
There's another one, Green Team Wins, that seems to sell a lot of copy at the store.
I have not played Green Teams Wins, which is funny because I always play green, so I would be very excited to play that.
And I think there was another one called Herd Mentality, which I also think was of similar, try to think like the majority, not be left out of the group kind of game. So yes. I'm a little surprised that we continue to retread the same ground and nominate it for awards. That seems like something that's been done before, but I've not played this one, so maybe it does something.
Same. Yeah, I don't know. I've played Herd Mentality. I've played a lot of other games in that same ilk. And like you said, there's a lot of games in that. So I'm a little surprised that this is here, considering how prestigious the Spirit Yaris is for somewhat innovative games. And then the third game here, Tim, is Morty Sorty Magic Shop. So this game is apprentices trying to demonstrate their talents for stocking the shelves. And that is, in fact, what it is, because your job here is to arrange jars, tiles on the shelves, which is your board. And then you're trying to meet certain goals. And again, the jars are numbered and they're colored and things of that nature. So it's a tile placement game.
I don't know what stocking shelves. That's not a theme that would have jumped out at me as one that would be great for gaming. But I guess, the closest I could think of is like a place for all my books or something along that line. There was another one.
There was another shelves game that... Yeah, that was actually like a physical game where you had to put the pieces into it. So, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's got the look of kind of an old school Euro game, and the Spirit Yaris tends to be lighter fare. It's meant to be for everybody. So this kind of fits what I think about when I think of a Spirit Yaris game. But I have not played the sticker game. So questions arise, Tim. We have to get you have to let us know. You have to feedback there on the sticker game.
Okay.
It deserves to be in there.
I'll
On the heavier side, we're looking at these games are what they consider gamer games. They're not. We always get disappointed every year, Tim, because we like to play heavy Euros, and these are not heavy Euros, although they kind of quasi claim that they're heavy Euros. So prepare to be disappointed, Tim.
I'm still waiting for the Uber Kennerspiel.
Yeah, you would think. Yeah. Boss Fighters QR. Team up and use your wits and gear to crack the tactics of intelligent boss monsters. So, Tim, it's a co-op fantasy campaign game, but guess where the QR comes from, Tim?
QR codes of some kind, I'm assuming.
Yeah, it basically that's what we're looking at. We're looking at app integration. And I don't know what your thoughts or feelings are on Tim, so I'm going to let you roll with that. I'm not the biggest fan of that personally, but they're there. They're out there in the world.
Yeah, I did enjoy Alchemists and Little Alchemists was probably the one app game that I would lean towards.
Sure.
It's kind of neutral for me. I played a little bit of Lord of the Rings Journey into the Dark, which was, I like the theme, right? Lord of the Rings, I'll sit down and try anything, but I kind of like somebody else at the table reading it more than listening to something on a screen. So I do tend to lean away from the app-driven games. I know it's a way that my kids really like, though. We had some monster matching game where we were trying to make colors by combining monsters that was app-driven. They've run some kids' mystery, sleuth kind of games using apps. And I have to say, it's pretty easy to get them to the table. And my kids, again, are 6 and 9. So, yeah, I'll tolerate it if it gets my kids to the table, but it is not my preference.
Yeah, I mean, my experience of it has been with like Descent, Mansions of Madness, a lot of the Fantasy Flight games where you had a lot of that kind of tactical fighter games or mystery games that kind of built out. So you needed the apps to kind of manage all of that dungeon creep stuff. So in that context, it's very smart because if you had to constantly refer back and forth to the rule book or to sheets or to scoring or hit percentage tables or something like that, obviously it would be a very daunting game to play. My thought or feeling experience about this has been historically being in the industry for so long that the apps just kind of either eventually do not work or have some other kind of problematic vibe to it. And the thing I like about board games is just like everything's in the box and I don't have to fuss around with anything else in particular. But I mean, certainly there are, good versions of that are out there. So I have not played this. Excited to play it.
Yeah, I'd say the reason I liked it in Alchemist, it could create new puzzles each time you played, right? So you don't have a static fixed this plus this equals this when you're mixing potions. You have this game, these two things together make this, but in a different game, these two things together make something else.
Yes.
So that randomization, it did very, very well.
Yeah, and some of the hidden movement games use apps as well. So we have to see what it's just like everything else with the technology, like how is it integrated and is it necessarily needed? Because I think if it's not needed, I would rather not have it, but maybe it's needed here. We'll see. Next up here is a game that I never thought that Spiros Yaris would actually put in their listing here. This is a Moon Colony Bloodbath.
Do we have to say Bloodbath?
I think we do have to say Bloodbath from now on. This is from Donald Vaccarino, our famous Donald Vaccarino yet again. So top designers putting out very different games than I guess historically we know them from. So, obviously so much good stuff out there from his Dominion work and Kingdom Builder and stuff like that. And then Bloodbath for some reason where people are getting chopped up and stuff. It's weird. I don't know. It's robots and I don't know. I have not played it. I was excited to play it. Anthony played it. It's on the podcast if you want to take a look as far as reviews concerned. Have you played this, Tim?
I have not. One of my friends owns it, and it is on our to-play list. I was excited hearing Anthony's review, that he seemed pretty excited, and I'm keen to try it.
Yeah, I really like the idea of the mechanics of it. the idea of like you're building up a machine to break it down kind of situation, like in Last Will. And that's a very unique kind of game experience where the engine building tableau, engine losing tableau is very much part of its experience. So yeah.
My main experience with that was Galaxy Trucker. That was a pretty random attack and breakdown, but I still enjoyed it. Like, I just have to have the right mindset going into the game to know that my stuff's going to get slapped around by some random mechanics. But if it's happening to everybody and you're in the right mood, it can be a lot of fun.
Sure, Tim, sure. Yeah, let's say that's a thing that people experience when they play that game. Let's say other people experience it. I don't know anyone who, but yes, I that's certainly a thing I've heard is experienced by people. But I would recommend, Tim, have you played Last Will?
I have, yeah. I also like that one.
Okay, so yeah, that would probably be my closer, happier memory of that kind of mechanic.
Much more strategic.
Yeah, because when you put out a ship in Galaxy Trucker and it blows your engines off and you just drift there for 30 minutes and you're just like, yeah, I'm glad I played this. Theoretically, it should be one of the best games of all time. I will say that, though. So maybe I've just had incredibly bad luck playing the game. But Moon Colony Bloodbath. Don't know why it's here. Again, like, I appreciate the mechanics. I'm just surprised. So I guess that's a good thing, Tim, right? It's good.
I think the name probably grabbed people's attention and got people's eyes on the game. So, I mean, we use art for the same purpose. Why not a crazy name, I guess?
I guess. I mean, it's Donald Vaccarino, so, like, all right, yeah, it's fine. Sure. It's his thing. And then finally, the third game in the category, which probably is their heaviest game here, Rebirth. Rebuild old lands in a lush, hopeful future. This is by a little-known designer, Reiner Knizia, Tim. I don't know if you've ever heard of Reiner Knizia. He's a new kid on the block.
I have to say, when I first got into the hobby, Reiner Knizia was my jam. I played a ton of his games, and
nice.
When people ask my favorite designer, his name would come to my lips. But over time, I have to say my enthusiasm has lessened a little. I think his games are solid. They're just sometimes a single mechanic that's interesting but fairly basic. And so these days, I tend to play games with a few more mechanics mixed in. But
gotcha. Bird, man. Tell you, Tim. He feels that. Reiner Knizia's feeling that right now. Somewhere out there in the world, he's just like, I disappointed Tim.
I fully recognize him as a genius, and I would.
He is a genius.
Anything negative about Reiner?
No, you can't. He's got amazing bow ties on top of everything else, but yeah, his stuff has always been a little too abstract for me. I do like his games generally, but they are very abstract. I mean, Amun-Re is probably my favorite game of his. Lost Cities is very good. Samurai is very good. Medici is very good, but it's not his ludology is incredible, but like you said, a little more on the mechanic side, a couple more things on top of which. So, but this is a very pretty game. It's like you said, it's kind of like a rebuilding fantasy civilization kind of game, but also, again, it's a very abstract kind of tile rebuilding land kind of situation. So
if I saw it on the table, I'd happily sit down and try it.
Yeah, it's a pretty game too, and I think to his benefit over the last 5 to 10 years, he's really starting to get himself involved with publishers who actually produce very pretty games, and I think that's to his benefit because I think his games, because they're so dry, and the artwork has been historically even drier, I don't think they've really represented his genius just overall. But all right, on the Kinderspiel, all the kids games. We don't typically always get those games coming out here to the US or to Canada, or I think anywhere outside of Europe some cases. But first up is Boo Party. It's Boo Party, Tim. It's Boo. That's all I have to say about the game. It's monsters hide in Halloween costumes to avoid being caught by the seer. Does that seem familiar? I don't know. The seer? I don't know. It's a thing.
Sure. Well,
yeah.
I got nothing.
Okay. It seems to be a child version of Werewolf a little bit, like it's a memory deduction game. But obviously you're not calling out players, you're calling out the monsters at the table. I will say the artwork is adorable, like crazy adorable artwork. So it's a small card game. So can play with kids. Next up is Mookie Island. Befriend adorable Mookies, but watch out for the spider. Oh no! Oh no! Anytime you read a kid's description and then there's like, and then watch out for the spider. Oh no! Yeah. So this is another children's card game. It's got some memory elements, some set collection, some take that. Yeah, and the spider wants to play some tricks on you. So yeah, cute, adorable creatures, and then a spider looking to bring about your demise. So kids, yeah, it's a thing. I don't know.
Looks like 2-player only. Very cute art on the front, though. I like the look of that.
Yes, very much so. And then finally, there is a game that goes by 2 names. The game was originally released in 2024. Mimos and Sam et les Vol de Fruits. And then Tim, you want to try the current name?
Verflixit Verzalbert.
There you go. See, we did it.
I don't speak German.
Yeah, I don't speak English either. We're doing the best we can, folks. We apologize to the designers and the publishers here. Adorable looking game at the very least, and both versions really cute. The new version just seems to be like a little more streamlined for kind of a mainstream audience. It looks like a little Harry Potter-ish, down to the characters on the box. So I think that's what they were going for. The original artwork, for me personally, was a lot more adorable. It kind of has more of a storybook kind of look to it. But I think the Harry Potter theming really matches. And between the actual pieces, looks like wooden dice here, this is adorable, Tim. This is my pick. I have no horse in this race, Tim. I've not played any of the games, but like, yeah, it's adorable.
Yeah, I think one player plays as a thief and others are detectives trying to catch that thief.
Yeah.
I could see that being appealing for my kids trying to catch me or something as a theme. That'd be something they'd be into, I'm pretty sure.
Nice. Well, there's your nominations for the 2026 Spiel des Jahres. The one thing we found, and I'm sure you found this, Tim, both as a game designer, as a dad, as somebody in a game group, and also as your wife, owns and runs a game store, is you should probably check these games out now and see if you're interested, because when these win awards, or sometimes in cases even when they don't win awards, they just disappear from the market. So if you're interested, you should look now.
I will say, from a game store perspective, maybe look for Spiel des Jahres winners from 2 to 3 years ago. We can tend to get those in stock.
Yeah.
And they don't stop being a good game just because they're 2 to 3 years old.
No, not at all. But I've seen this a lot where people get very excited about the nominees, and then when it hits an award, it just disappears over the last couple of years. So that's kind of sad. So yeah, again, cool awards, cool people, great games. Definitely check them out. I hope more of these games come out to North America so we get a chance to play them. Even the kid games, I'm always excited to try those like really beautifully intense, rich kid games, because I think they have a lot of qualities that we kind of sometimes miss out with the adult games, where they're just not as whimsical and fun. So yeah, check it out. All right, well, that said, let's get on to the episode. Tim, let's roll for preview. What are you thinking about this week?
Well, you and I were talking a little bit before the episode about sports-related games. And
yes.
I did find one on Kickstarter this week called Nothing But Net, a playground basketball card game.
Cool.
So, trying to turn a sports game into a board game is a very challenging venture. I think one of the few that I've enjoyed along the way was Baseball Highlights 2045, I think was the year. Yeah, 2045. I haven't really found too many others that I've enjoyed. So I always want to look out, because I think it's a very challenging design space, and I'm curious what people are doing there. So in Nothing But Net, it is a deck building mechanic to play basketball.
Sure.
So at the start of the game, you're going to draft cards from a pool of defensive cards and offensive cards to form your starting hand. And you get a few special cards that you can pull out over the course of the game as one-time effects as well. So whoever's turn it is will play some sort of offensive thing like a shot. And then the defensive player will see if in their hand they have a block card to stop that shot. And then it seems like there's a bunch of cards that you can play before or afterwards to counter that counter. So one of those games where you have a handful of cards that you can play out at your whim. It's not necessarily a traditional deck builder where you draw 5 and then discard them all, draw 5 new. It's draw 1, play 1, draw 1, play 1. And at certain points in the game, you get the opportunity to buy more cards to tweak your deck. So say you're not have taken enough shots, and if you don't shoot, you don't score, right? As my dad always used to say when I was playing sports. So you can draft more shot cards if you're deficient, or your opponent's running and rampant with their cards. You need some block cards. So as the game progresses, you can adapt to what your opponent is doing. And then when you basically take a shot, you throw a dice into this clever-looking dice tower that rolls it across the court. And if it comes up with a 2-point or 3-point shot, you'll score. And it's the first to 21. So that classic sort of game of 21 that you may have played on the playground now comes to life as a deck builder. So I'm curious. This is a game that I would I'm not actually backing. So this week I saved a little money, but I'd be curious if somebody brought this to the table. I'd love to give it a go and see what's done in this design space.
Yeah, I'm really not sure where the disconnect comes into play as far as sports games not getting a large majority of the board game industry, considering that, sports are such a big, hobby for so many people out there. And, I don't necessarily get that, Tim. Do you have a sense of it?
I think trying to simulate that multiplayer at the same time feeling that you get in a team sport may be part of the challenge. We seem to see more games about drafting players into certain positions. I think Portal Games had a soccer one recently, and I've seen other dice sort of drafting games for football and things. But to actually simulate the gameplay in real time, that feeling of I play, you react, I think this could do it with the deck building card back and forth. Like we have those battling games now where, I throw a punch and you try to block. I think this will fall more into that category of game.
Gotcha. Makes sense. Yeah. We've talked about this a lot over the years because Anthony and I have, big sports fans, number of different sports, and just generally it's been hit and miss, right? Like you mentioned, 11 was one of the kind of sports games that soccer/football games that came out recently. And it just has not been the mainstay, but obviously it's a rich area to kind of take a look at. And beside the deck building here, there's looks like there's a dice tower, Tim. That's a basketball hoop kind of thing. You throw the dice in. So
yep. And then you see whether you made your shot. Not whether you get it into the dice tower, but what face the dice comes up on.
Yes. Yeah. Which is fun. And I think that really plays into the sport really well. And again, it's just sports has so much statistics and strategy and tactics and just randomness in some cases like that. I think it would be a really rich vein for more tabletop gaming. So thank this for bringing this to our attention, Tim, because something that hopefully more people get to the table. All right, Tim. Well, for my role for preview here, I'm going to do the thing, Tim, where we're not supposed to do the thing, which is I'm going to talk about the thing that we're probably not, that we want it back, but probably should not back because it's all the monies, Tim. So on GameFound, GameFound has yet again brought us a game that it's just going to cause problems, Tim. It's going to cause problems. I'm just saying that. It's going to cause economic global problems. Terraforming Mars, the legacy of Mars. This is, of course, by Stronghold Games. Terraforming Beyond Mars, mankind has finally dragged itself out of the hole that is Earth's gravity well and now has the entire solar system at its feet. We are now ready to take terraforming the true legacy of Mars to new worlds. The Legacy of Mars is a fully replayable campaign game. Tim, did you ever think you would see the day that Terraforming Mars would get a legacy game?
I did, actually. Stephen Bonacore, I think, leaked that information years ago before he should have, and then got in trouble.
He did.
But I was really hoping this would be affordable because I'd be all over this. And it's one of those games I really hope a friend of mine backs, but I just can't at that price point.
Somebody in the game group, Tim? Is that what we're thinking? Somebody in the game group?
Maybe. Just for the record, if you want the ultimate pledge on this one, $550 is what's showing up on my screen. I don't know if that's Canadian or American, but that either way is a lot of money.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about the game itself. It's Terraforming Mars. So there you go. It has over 600 unique cards, 4 unique maps, includes a solo mode. Anthony will be happy about that. Dual layer player boards. It has parameter miniatures. Not sure what that is. And a deluxe storage solution. I don't know why a storage solution needs to be deluxe, but I mean, usually that means more money. And basically, it's a campaign across the solar system. So Mars is number 1. I should say mission number 1. And then we go beyond. And Ganymede is mission 2, and then 3 and 4 is classified. So there'll be new worlds, there'll be new boards, there'll be new challenges throughout. And your job, of course, is to terraform. And then obviously deal with all the challenges that come into play here. So seems like the game itself looks almost identical to a typical game of Terraforming Mars. Of course, there is some different global parameters and some competitions as far as milestones and awards, typically just already with the game. And then each of those different mission scenarios are going to come with different incentives and challenges throughout. And again, it's taking your corporation throughout the galaxy to kind of revise and change things. Now, typically when we talk about legacy game, we talk about games that are, I guess you can't play them a second time. There's no tearing cards here. There's no writing on the boards. There's no irreversible changes. So you could play this again. Yay, I guess. And again, there's a lot of campaign boxes to come in there, and there's a lot more information about the game that is not out yet because it's doing the thing with the campaign where it's just leaking information very slowly. If you do want to back the game itself, just the base game, it's $109. I think that's American. And you're getting 4 game boards for, obviously like the 4 different legacy scenarios. And it seems like it's incorporating a good amount of the expansions into play here. The deluxe edition. Now, this comes with the 3D tiles. That's $249. So for those of you out there who have never backed the super deluxe version of Terraforming Mars with all the deluxe tile, they are very pretty. And now there's more of them. So you could actually use these into play. But as Tim mentioned, if you do want to have everything, which includes a whole bunch of other stuff on top of which, just to get you all the little additional pieces beyond there's the actual game stuff. Yes, $549. So all the upgrades, all the promos, all the extra little boards, everything about the game itself. Yes, $549, Tim.
I wonder if that start player marker is a remote control for that price.
Yeah. Now, Tim, tell them about the twist, because they think this is the full game, Tim.
So there was definitely some controversy I heard about when this campaign was announced because they put part 1 in the initial news release. Mm-hmm. So the plan is actually to have a second half of this game as a second Kickstarter. Or Game Found campaign. Wow. So presuming the second one, maybe they give a slight discount if you buy both at that time. Who knows? Maybe they don't. But I don't know. Can I pay $800-900 for a board game? Maybe no, I can't.
Yeah. Well, the shipping too is we're talking $50 North America, $70 Europe, and then obviously depending on where you are in the world, it's a relatively around that same place. Although I like that they use the term rest of world, $400. So if you're not in one of these particular areas, including North America, Europe, I guess some of the major countries in South Asia, or East Asia, and then, I guess Mexico. And then, so I guess basically South America, my friends, to our South American listeners out there, we are very sorry because you are considered the rest of the world. So $400 for you people. Jeez.
So God. You want the almost everything pledge shipped somewhere in the rest of the world. You're looking at $1,000 US.
Yeah. That's
give or take
expensive. Go ahead, Tim.
That
you do.
aside, Chris, I was in terms of ignoring the price, how I'm excited about this. I would say most of the legacy games I've enjoyed have not been this super complicated games. Like Terraforming Mars is like a very heavy game to turn into a legacy game. I was actually more keen to see it as a campaign game because they've done different maps, different objectives. So if you're simply flowing where one game has some impact on the start of the next, that's a very logical connection, I think, with the amount of expansion material they've already proven they can do. But each game maybe has a contained deck because it's on a different planet. Maybe you don't get that big deck problem. I'm not sure. Maybe you carry some cards forward, but not the whole deck. That'd be my hope. I think it could work as a campaign game. And so price aside, I would definitely be interested. I really like Terraforming Mars. I play it a lot. I do own the 3D miniatures from the first go around, so they already got me once. So I'm a mixed feeling. I'm nervous about, keeping it to 4 games seems reasonable for the entire length of the campaign. A legacy game like Pandemic, where you have 12 episodes, that'd be a bit much, I think, for Terraforming Mars and its complexity.
I think that's a very good point, because even the best games that you really enjoy do get very tiring when you have to play them so many times, and that certainly wears on you. Terraforming Mars, they've out there an RPG version of this, and I think some books out there as well. So I think there's a possibility that they might have a good story in this. Have you played Scythe, the Fenris Legacy Edition, Tim? Have you played that version?
Unfortunately, most of my experiences with legacy games, I've played a portion of Fenris, but only probably the first few episodes in that, which I did enjoy, but I don't think I got to see all that box had to offer.
So for example, Fenris, which is Scythe but with extra stuff, is as far as more stuff, it's brilliant, Tim. Like, it has all the corrections and all the additions you want. As far as the story is concerned, it's very light. It's not even really a story. It's just something kind of tacked on. And it's my favorite expansion, but again, the story's not really there. So there's a mixed bag as far as, like, does it have enough story to actually keep you going, or am I just playing the same game over and over? So, like, one of my favorite legacy experiences was Risk Legacy, and that has it has a good balance of, like, gameplay, but the gameplay being short and the story kind of following through. But yes, Terraforming Mars, if they have, I guess certainly they have gone through the cards, but 600 cards, I'm sure it means it's split up amongst all the different maps. So I'm sure you're not playing with 600 cards for the first game. But historically, the problem with Terraforming Mars is they've never really come out with an essential edition that really goes through the cards and finds the valuable combos and, like, gameplay elements to it. So it's always been too long. It's always been too long. So I can imagine this actually hurting my feelings as far as playing Terraforming Mars, because I think it could be too long, Tim.
So let me ask you for this, or for Scythe. Yeah. If I came to you with a box full of modular expansions but no storyline, but just said right up front, these are the things the game can add, you can mix this and that, would you prefer that? Or do you think the story hooks you to playing the game enough times that you're willing to try those modules that would otherwise just collect dust?
That's a good question, because I think I want to say I don't need the story to play the modules, because I do feel, not just with Scythe, but I think with a lot of other games, that it's sometimes preposterous the lengths that they go to kind of, like, involve an extra module for you to play. Like, and now your ship is painted purple, so you have to use the purple dice. You're just like, yeah, I guess. Okay, we're going to use the purple dice. Why? I don't know. It says the ship is purple now, so now we're using the purple dice. The only thing I will say that I could agree with you on the other side, Tim, is Queen Games used to come out with their big box, coffin box games with, like, a ton of what they used to call Queenies, which were these very small modular things, gameplay elements that you could play in the game. And I will say that historically, even though I was excited about it, I don't think I've ever played with all of them. So I will say that there is some value into having the story kind of give you a rationale to push you to play through all the little pieces. So yeah, I guess there's some value to it, Tim. But I think if you call it a legacy game, you're setting a high standard. And if you can't meet the standard with a good story, then I'm gonna hit you for it. I'm sorry. I'm just gonna hit you for it.
I do find it interesting they called it the Legacy of Mars, but everything on the site describes it as a fully replayable campaign.
Yeah. And again, campaign games and legacy games are different. They're the same but different, right? Like every legacy game is kind of a campaign game, kind of, right? I guess it is, right? Because you're playing it multiple times. Or you're playing, I don't know if there's a legacy game that's just a one-time game. I guess there probably is out there. I've not come across it. But not every campaign game is a legacy game. Yeah. So to say the Legacy of Mars, yeah, they're talking about the historical milestones of multiple generations, terraforming multiple planets in the solar system. So it does make sense. But I think in the industry, if you use the word legacy, and in the game description, if you're talking about it being a legacy game, I think you have to make it a legacy game. I think I do. In fact, Tim, I think I do want to rip up cards. I think I do want to blow up parts of Mars, right? Like, I think I mean, if you played Risk Legacy, like things like that happen. Like, I think it's not as fun. Like, I could just play Terraforming Mars 4 times. I don't know.
Yeah, I will say that to have a rule set that's fairly in-depth that I'm familiar with, but for 4 consecutive games with my game group, for example, we can sit down, put it on the table, not relearn rules, but have a different experience.
Yes.
And then we put the game away, and a year later we come back and play those 4 modules again and get a different sort of story to be told out of that. I can see the appeal.
Yeah, but I feel like back in the day, there just used to be expansions that were like global effect cards that like, trying to think of all the games, like Small World had a deck of global effect cards. Kingsburg had a deck of global effect cards where basically every round or so you would flip a card over and it would change the game in some way. Yeah. And I feel like that's just what this campaign thing does, but I haven't played it yet. So
yeah, and modular maps could do the same thing for the physical layout.
Sure. Yeah. So yeah, what's the difference between an expansion and a legacy game? I'm not really sure. As far as how widely different they are. Because again, it doesn't change the game state, then it's not a legacy game for me. So, yeah. All right. Well, that's everything that we're looking forward to getting to the table at some point in the future. If someone has a whole bunch of money and wants to bring it to Tim's house, that's all I'm saying. If that could be a thing, we definitely would appreciate that. All right. That leads us on to our roll for play. Tim, let's let people know if those games are a buy and they should round play those games. If the games are a play and they should sit down and enjoy them. If those games are a dodge and they should avoid them because they cost a lot of money, Tim. Or in fact, those games are the dreaded burn, and sometimes burns are not bad because it's just what legacy games do. So what'd you play this week, Tim?
Well, it was a long weekend in Canada, and in addition to playing some Dungeons & Dragons with my family, we pulled out a game that we hadn't played in a while called Nunatak, Temple of Ice.
Love it.
Yeah, so it is from 2023, released by Cosmos Games and designers Kane Klenko. Plays pretty quick. It's only about a 45-minute game, maybe even a half an hour once you know it. And the 2 basic sort of mechanisms in the game I'm going to say are a spatial building of a pyramid, which is almost like an area control minigame, and then card collection to make sets which score in different ways. So on any given turn, you will take a card from one of the ones that are face up on the table, and that will enable you to place an ice cube onto this pyramid, to build this pyramid of ice. So it is a 5x5 grid with 6 different symbols, which correspond to the 6 different card suits. So if I take the sculptor card, I have to place one of my ice cubes onto a sculptor symbol within the pyramid. What I'm trying to do in the pyramid is every time there's a group of 4 ice blocks made, you're going to put a cap on those 4, which is another tile. So whoever scored the most ice blocks within that 4 will get 5 points. So if it's 2 tiles for me, 1 and 1 for the other players, I would score 5. They'd split 2 points for 1 point each. So it's a little mini area control for each group of 4 ice blocks. And then furthermore, when you build up on the next level, you look down and say, well, as I place onto this second level tile, who had ice blocks underneath? So I can score again by placing another one of my tile on top for every ice block that I use to help make the formation. So you go from a 5x5 grid to a 4x4 to a 3x3, and then you cap it off with a nice little cardboard thing at the end of the game to make this beautiful ice pyramid on your table, which is probably, I don't know, 1.5 by 1.5. It's a decent size sort of centerpiece for your game table. So definitely eye-catching is one of the first things I'll say to its positive. That when you construct that pyramid, everyone around you kind of goes, ooh, that looks cool. What's your plan? So table presence, check. Then what you're doing with the card you actually took is you're making sets. And there are 6 different suits in the game. And there'll be some of the same scoring mechanics you might be familiar with from other games. So for example, there are some artisans that score very much like technology in Seven Wonders, where you get points for diversity of symbols, but also for set within sets. The more you have of a certain type, the more points you get. There's one suit that it's an escalating sort of amount, like the workers in St. Peter's, or the nobles in St. Petersburg, or the different art pieces in Stone Age, where just the more different ones you get, it escalates. There are symbols which are multipliers. So if you hunt wildlife in the woolly rhino, wherever you'd find a woolly rhino, that's what's in the game. The number of woolly rhino symbols times the number of woolly rhino cards as a multiplier. And then there's one suit that interacts with the board game. When you complete a row or column, you get an architect point, and at the end of the game, you take your number of architect points by your number of architect cards. So it's all these just variations on scoring, none of which I think is overly new. You've seen them in other games, but there's 6 different ways of scoring between the 6 different suits. You score up all your points at the end of the game, depending on how many of each you collected, plus the points you made as you're building the pyramid, and you see who is the winner.
Very nice.
So, pros of the game, I would say table presence. I would say set collection for different scoring mechanics can be really fun. My wife managed to collect almost all of one of the color cards because my son and I were busy fighting each other for a different color. And so I will say, don't let one person at the table get all of one card. That's a bad move.
Unless it's your wife, Tim, then you can let it go, right? Right?
Wife's happy, everybody's happy. Yeah.
Yeah. It's fine.
I will say that, like, I don't think the scoring is anything too unique. The pyramid building is probably more unique than the card collection. But overall, it was a solid 30 to 45 minute game. I would recommend, to me, it would be a play. I'm not telling people to rush out and buy it, but if you see it at the table, that big pyramid catches your attention, definitely sit down. You won't regret the 45 minutes it takes.
Nice. And like you said, it's great table presence, get people interested. And a very different look for a tabletop game. We usually don't get a lot of these kind of like grand designs on the table. Things are typically a lot more flat or a lot more miniature based. So this is bright, colorful, and dynamic and tall, which was a mainstay back in the day of tabletop gaming and kind of lost its way. So it's nice to see something different.
One quick con I should mention from the game is I think it really does play best at 3.
Okay.
You have to actually use a dummy player if you're playing with 2, and at 4
Sure.
there are some additional modifications that you have to do. So it very much, I think, was designed as a 3-player game and then broadened to be 2 to 4. So it does fit that niche for 3-player games. There aren't as many of those that maybe play best at 3. So if
Sure.
that's a consideration for your gaming group, that is something worth noting.
Yeah, and just that's great to know, Tim, because I think historically that's always a hard number to get a good game to the table. And I think even publishers don't do a good job with letting the public know what their game plays best at. So it's good to know that there's another good 3-player game out there.
Another
Very
potential con, I don't know about the theming. Building an ice pyramid's kind of a weird one. You and I were talking a bit before the game.
Yeah.
The title is an Inuit word, which has to do with mountains within ice sheets. But then right in the rule book, they talk about Inuit in Antarctica, which isn't the thing. They're in the Arctic. So I will just say that the theme feels quite pasted on, especially when some of your ice cubes are orange. Like, that's just another weird choice. I can see the blue, light blue, and white. But so there's some weird things that kind of go on in the theming is another potential con. But
It's lazy, and that's unfortunately disappointing because they, like a lot of other games, this could have been anything. You could put this on Mars and just say, hey, there's orange ice up there. And what do we know, Tim? There could be. So, yeah, you didn't need to confuse people with a place and a thing that all three do not exist. Well, one exists, the other two do not exist in that kind of way. So, yeah, it's weird and unnecessary, but okay. It's a thing, Tim.
There you have it. Nunatak, Temple of Ice.
All right. Well, the game I want to talk about a little bit here is a game I only got a chance to play once, so I don't have a full review of this. I like to play a game several times before I give it a full review, but I was very excited, Tim, to play Luthier. Have you played Luthier, Tim?
I have not.
So Luthier is a game about crafting musical instruments for crafting musical instruments and dealing with patrons of the arts. It's basically a worker placement game, but there's some hidden mechanics that go along with it. And this was a game that was really high on my interest list when it came out on crowdfunding, because it was utterly gorgeous. The artwork, the components, like everything was at like the umpteenth level of production. In fact, they had a dice tower that I guess was an organ, musical organ, and something you had to put together for the game itself. And when you place the dice in it to roll out, it would actually play music. It would play a couple of musical notes.
That's
on
pretty
the way
awesome.
out. Yeah, so they really went above and beyond to make this game like gorgeous on all levels. And actually seeing the game at the Gathering of Friends, I was like, we really should try to play this because, for one, Tim, it's incredibly expensive. We didn't get to play the super deluxe version of it, but we did get to play certainly a crowdfunding version where the box and the components were very high quality. Again, everything was well done. It's a heavy game. It's, according to BGG, it's a 3.78. This is from Dave Beck and Abe Burson. And there's so much to love in the production. The game itself is honestly pretty straightforward. Basically, what you're looking at is this orchestra hall with the balcony that has a lot of these special effects. And the orchestra is where a lot of the instruments that you're crafting are going to go. Those instruments that go there, including other bonuses and such, is really where you're going to score the vast majority of your points and is the focal point of the game itself. So this beautiful building that comes into play has different sections. It has a salon section where you're going to, technically woo or pay resources in order to gain patrons to go onto your own workshop board. You could hold up to 3 patrons, and those 3 patrons are really necessary because they're going to score you points during the game, including special abilities throughout the game. But also, as the game goes on and you're trying to meet their particular conditions, they're also going to give you resources as you don't meet their conditions. So there's a really interesting push and pull as far as like, I want to benefit this patron as quickly as possible so that I can get another patron in, but also I'm gaining resources. But also, if I don't reach that patron's needs, that patron could disappear, and there's bad stuff that goes along with it on top of everything else. So there's a speed element as well. So basically what you're doing is you're trying to match up a lot of symbols, a lot of basic resources, and on top of dealing with the patrons who have certain conditions that they need to be met, which is typically instruments, performances, or repairs, you're trying to do those things as well because they're going to score you victory points, but also they're going to give you tokens to play in the balcony, and the orchestra, where it's going to be able to give you like an area control situation. And if you have the majority in particular situations, or if you built the extra instrument, which comes from your own workshop board, which requires you to rough out the instrument, which means it requires certain materials, and then finally to be able to build the extra instrument itself, that's going to allow you to put out that instrument into the orchestra. And if you're able to do that first, you get the first chair position. That's the main scoring point of that particular area. The rest of the tokens you get from doing other things are helpful and do score you points in some circumstances, but generally building the instruments to put out there for play, finishing the instruments put out there for play is essential for your success. So the game comes down to a standard worker placement game. You have tokens, and each of those tokens has a particular number on it. I think it's 5321 or I think 531. And then basically putting those numbers out determines, as far as, if depending on what section's being activated, whoever has the highest number in that section gets to do that section first. Some of those go out to the board, some goes out to your workshop board, and there's also assistants that will up your numbers. There's a market where you can get more materials. And basically, that's pretty much it, is basically get your patrons, score your points, do your performances, rough out your instruments, finish your instruments, play them out to the main orchestra, score points. And then there's a variety of other ways to score points, but mainly, again, it's Luthier, the art of the instrument. So primarily what you need to do is create the instruments, because that meets everyone's general kind of consensus of victory points and game-winning conditions. You also have a starting family. That starting family, they all have a particular starting bonus or ongoing special ability. That really plays a very big part in this game, because if you play at your best, it really comes down to like winning or losing by a handful of points, like 2 or 3 or 4 points, because like you got this first or someone got this bonus. So it's a relatively tight game. We played at 2 players, which meant that a dummy player kind of blocks up certain spots on the board. I found that not really a lot of fun, including which, since you're playing your discs onto board and those discs are hidden as far as the power that they have there. So like if I really want to get a spot, I might have to use my most powerful disc to be able to get that. But if I'm only playing a 2-player game, it's not really that, there's not that pressure. So this game, again, Tim, like you were saying, definitely not a 2-player game, definitely more on the 3 to 4 player. Probably 3 players, probably the sweet spot. 4-player might become a little bit more challenging because, again, the board doesn't radically change. You take a couple of cards off, but it doesn't really radically change at the higher player counts. So probably best at 3, also good at 4. It was okay at 2. So I enjoyed it.
A couple questions for you. First would be, how punishing is it? Like, so if you get out-competed for a spot, how does that really put you behind the 8 ball? So if we're in a 4-player game and player A beats player B to the spot narrowly, is player B now hooped for the rest of the game? Or
no, I don't think it's that punishing, but you do have a possibility of losing your patron, and your patron wants certain things. So if it wants a stringed instrument and you don't get the string instrument, you may not be able to get another string instrument for another round or 2, because basically how they come out in the market. So it's possible from an efficiency standpoint that you might be behind the 8 ball a little bit as far as that's concerned. But you don't like, it's not like not feeding your workers kind of situation. It's just like, well, I think like at the start of the game, you start with an instrument, and I think the instrument I started with did not pair with my starting patron. So I finished that instrument, but it didn't give me the additional benefit. When Anthony had that, his starting instrument did pair with his patron, so it gave him an initial bonus as far as points and resources that I didn't have access to. So that's really where it kind of comes into play and challenges you a little bit.
And in terms of the game loop, once you create something, can you use it to fulfill multiple conditions ongoing, or it's a one and done once you've used it?
It's a one and done once you use it, but usually meeting the condition of like a patron, for example, or meeting the condition for a performance usually means that you're going to score points in other ways. So like the patron might want you to do 2 performances. So once you do those 2 performances, they go away, but those 2 performances will be able to give you tokens to go out into the orchestra to possibly score some points and or resources. So it does have a very nice collaborative kind of flow. So you're not just doing one thing to do one thing. Like that one thing will score you points, but also it could score you additional points with a larger goal.
Fair. Does it have an arc to the game, or it just feels like you do this thing and then you do it again, then you do it again? I guess is the heart of my question. Like, I like games that sort of gradually escalate and look at this thing I've made. Are you getting that feeling from this game or no?
No, it's a wash, rinse, repeat kind of situation. The only thing that I will say is there's opportunity to open up 3 additional types of workers. You'll gain additional workers as the game goes on, but there's special types of workers you'll be able to open. And one of the special abilities that can come into play is to give you different types of patrons to select from. So there is different patrons, there are different instruments and stuff that you can gain access to play. But no, the game itself is just get a patron, get an instrument, rough it out, finish it, do some performances, put the instrument out into the orchestra, get another patron, get another instrument, do that. So it's kind of samey. It did not feel like it overstayed its welcome, Tim. And I think at a larger player count, it would be more challenging to not meet the conditions of your patron always. That being said, it's a very nice kind of vibe and experience as far as you play it. Have you played Tricarion, Tim?
I have, yeah.
Tricarion is very similar as far as the workers have different power levels, and you have to gain certain resources in order to be able to make out the instruments, or in Tricarion, different resources in order to create the materials you need for your performances. But Tricarion does have what you mentioned, Tim, which is that kind of like story where and now we're doing all the performances, right? Like that kind of like end kind of story situation. Luthier doesn't have it because Luthier is primarily based around creating the instruments. That's it. You're not really you're doing performances and other things, but it doesn't really feel like here's the crescendo of all of it, right? Like here's the big moment.
So if I spend 2 hours crafting these instruments in the end, Chris, is it worth it?
Yes, I would say that this, again, I have not played this at the larger player count, which I think is required. I think it is a lesser game at 2 players. I think the family special abilities really are interesting and dynamic, so I would like to play with more of the families. So it is a solid play for me. I would recommend people play this. I could, as you mentioned, Tim, and I think that's my one takeaway, Tim, as far as, like you said, like, it may not be a buy because, like, while I do think that the level of production does is somewhat in line with the cost, somewhat, Tim. I'm not going to go all the way, Tim. Somewhat in line with the cost. I do agree with what you're saying, which is, does it have that kind of like flow to it? Does it get to a point? Nope. It's pretty much you do the same thing, you do the same thing, you do the same thing, game's over. So I think if I had this in my collection, I would play it. People would want to play it, but I certainly don't think that it's radically different than anything else as far as like a great heavy Euro game. So it gets a solid play for me.
Some beautiful staccato notes, but not a nice crescendo over the course of the game.
100% too. All right. With that said, let's get on to our feature review. Our feature review this week, of course, the voice of the gamers, Tim. You have a great topics for us here. We're going to be talking about if you like Point Salad, the game. We all remember Point Salad. You should try these other games, Tim.
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of Point Salad. It distills down some make-your-own scoring is what I call it, where each vegetable has no inherent value on its own, but you collect cards that make those vegetables valuable as you go through the game. And the more cards I get that reward me for having peppers, the more that pepper feels sweet at the end of the game. So I really like that. One game I can push hard into this or that, and the game plays very differently depending how I set up my own scoring.
Yeah, no, it's a great mechanic. And again, Point Salad games have been around for a while. Historically, they've been kind of attributed to Stefan Feld, although he's not the first or only designer that had Point Salad games, which basically was, you're going to score a lot of points. Like, that's the game. Everything scores points. So that concept, at least, the concept has been out there for quite some time. And yeah, Point Salad is a game that I really like too. I have a copy of it. I play it a lot, play with family, play with friends. It's one of the most brilliant games because it's so simple, Tim. Like, it's so straightforward because like you really don't have to teach much of anything when you start playing the game. A lot of games where people are like, oh, just start playing the game and I'll figure it out. Like, this is one of the rare games where you could actually do that, Tim. And I think that's surprising.
Yeah, the weight on Board Game Geek is only a 1.15.
Yeah, because basically the cards, the fruits, I'm sorry, the vegetables are on the table, and you're like, well, choose a vegetable or choose a scoring card and then collect those vegetables. Like, that's pretty much it, and that's the game. So,
and despite that, there's lots of different ways of scoring, and they make it entertaining. So
yes.
I tried to find other games where you build your own scoring was what I was looking for. So
Yes.
I'm going to start my list with a game that's only a little bit heavier on Board Game Geek, a 1.67 weight, In the Footsteps of Darwin. It is a game that you guys have talked previously about on the podcast. It was released at 2023 PAX Unplugged, and then Board Gamers Anonymous did nominate it for their best family game in 2023, but it was beaten out by Imperial Miners. So if you don't want to listen to some of those back episodes, it's episode 453 and 458.
Oh, yeah. Excellent.
So in the Footsteps of Darwin, there's a central grid of tiles, which is 3x3, and the ship sails around the outside of them. I can pick any of the tiles from the column or row that that ship is in. If I pick the first one, the ship moves forward 1. If I pick the one in the middle, the ship moves forward 2. And if I pick the third one, the ship moves forward 3. So I'm not only deciding what tile I'm getting, but I'm deciding what tiles are available for the next player to pick from. Once you get those, you put them onto your own player board on the matching icon and color. And where this like Point Salad comes in is every time I pick 2 of the same color and icon and they go on the same spot on my player board, I then get to pick a game end scoring objective. So I make an objective that for every tile from a certain continent, I'll score points. Or for every tile from a certain family, birds, mammals, reptiles, I'll score a point. Where on my board, a certain quadrant will score. So you're collecting these tiles, everybody gets the same number of them over the game, but those banner tiles that you collect along the way will very much determine what each tile is worth, in addition to their face points. You can collect compasses and maps, which are a multiplier. So there's a few ways to score. It's also a point salad in the sense of lots of ways to score, but the core mechanic of now I've made my birds worth something feels good to me.
Very nice. Definitely agree with that. My first game up here is, again, like Tim was saying before, I love games that you get to kind of choose your own scoring at the end. So I try to pick games that allow me to score as many points as possible, as easy as possible, but also my own particular version and variation of what that scoring might be. So first up is, surprisingly, Tim, it's a flip and right. Welcome to. So the original Welcome to is probably the one I would recommend. Obviously, there's a bunch of different Welcome tos, but I think as far as weight's concerned, this is obviously under a 2.0 on BGG. And I think it's the most simple, streamlined, and wonderfully functional game out there of its entire line. I think some of the other games are a little more heavy or more complex and doesn't allow you to score in your own particular direction. But Welcome to is really interesting and unique because basically cards are flipped over and then you have a choice. And again, you get to decide on what you do as far as what you're going to score in that particular game. So you're an architect building these fabulous homes in development. So it's kind of a retro future past kind of situation. So there's a lot of different things you could score. And you're talking about barricades, there's mailboxes, there's just a lot of different elements as far as what you could be able to kind of put together. So I like the idea of not just like scoring particular areas, but then obviously also the subdivisions that you're able to kind of, box out to score those particular areas. So again, as all of these roll and rights and these flip and rights are concerned, a lot of different ways to score points. Also, a lot of kind of innovative ways to score additional points based on scoring those small points off from the start.
Great. For my next game, I'm going to go with Acropolis, which released in 2022 from Gigamic Games.
Mm-hmm.
It made an honorable mention in Anthony's top 10 of 2023. It is a great tile laying game where your tiles are the shape of 3 hexes mashed together. So a triangular sort of tile made up of 3 hexes. And the fun part is you don't just get to build on one level, but once you can support it, you can place it on top of the previous level, covering up some of the symbols that you'd already gathered. If you cover up a quarry, that's a way to get stone, which is the currency in the game. But also going up scores more. So if you have a tile that meets its scoring conditions on the first level, it's worth 1. If you have it on the second level, it's worth 2. On the third level, it's worth 3. And each tile has its own scoring condition. So like blues want to be in one big group of houses, whereas markets, they want to be isolated. You want to be the only market. So you don't want markets to touch each other. Barracks want to be on the outside of the city, but temples want to be inside, completely surrounded. So once you meet those conditions, you score at how many tiles or how many points worth of tiles you have. But over the course of the game, the twist is you also have to collect plazas, which have stars on them in a certain color. So my blue tiles aren't worth anything unless I have a blue star. And then each blue star will give me a point per blue tile I have. So if I have 2 stars, well, 2 points for blue tiles, 3. So it's a multiplier. And that's really kind of fascinating. And this tension of, well, I want to build up, but I have to cover things to go up, really kind of leaves you making choices about whether or not you want to do so. You want to spread out your city and have lots of 1-point value tiles, or go up and sacrifice a few lesser ones for some big ones. You want to focus in one color. Do you want diversity? Can you get that within a draft? Somebody knows you have a lot of one color. They're going to steal those plazas from you. So I really enjoy Acropolis as an abstract tile laying game. I think your guys' review doesn't do anything new, but I really do enjoy Acropolis. It plays quick, plays fast, easy to teach, very intuitive.
Excellent. Well, next up for me is Forest Shuffle. It's a game about curating a diverse ecology. You got flora, you got fauna, and basically you have a lot of trees out there. So basically, Forest Shuffle comes down to placing trees into a tableau. Each of the trees or each of the cards themselves have a whole bunch of different scoring opportunities. So basically, from the very start of the game, you're going to decide on a certain particular pathway on what you want to kind of work towards. So as I mentioned, the trees have different scoring options, but in fact, all the cards in the game typically are going to have a lot of different scoring options, and each of them are going to benefit off different conditions. So multi-use card games, once again, which is a lot of fun. So basically, the trees are the homes, and basically all the flora and fauna that are in the game are slid in, under, above, and below in order to give you different scoring opportunities. So you might have birds, butterflies, toads, ants, bugs, deer, foxes, things, all those different, elements of nature and how they interact with each other. So how you kind of slide those cards in, around, and under your tree is going to give you a lot of opportunities to score, benefits based on what's in your tree, but also what's in your entire forest. So again, this is a wonderful thing as far as like, I can decide how I want to build up my forest. I can decide what I want to score. I could decide on what I want to build towards. So I could go pure trees and just like build out like a real strong tree foundation, throw some birds in there and call it a day. Or maybe I want to put in animals that hunt other animals, or maybe I want to go all bats for some reason. So it's a lot of fun as far as like developing your own particular strategy in a tableau builder that has a lot of options in play.
Great. My third game on my list is another one you guys have talked about on the podcast, Cities by Phil Walker Harding.
Sure.
Came out in 2024. I believe you guys actually gave that an award that year for the best family game, and I thought that was a great pick. I like Cities in that it's very simple and intuitive. There are 4 workers that you have to place per round, and there are 4 rows that you're going to place into. So you can choose which order of rows you want to prioritize by going there first to get your first pick. But each player can only place once into each of the 4 rows. One row will give you building plots that can be parks, waters, or solid ground for putting houses on. Another row gets you those houses to build buildings, and the houses can stack on top of each other to make this kind of appealing looking 3D city. You can get features to put in your parks or your lakes, which will score for diversity of features per park and per water area. And then what makes this game fit this list is the fourth row is scoring cards. So again, at the start of the game, red houses aren't worth anything. But I get a scoring card that says each red building of height 3 will score me X number of victory points. And you get one of those each round of the 8 rounds of the game. By the end of the game, you have 8 scoring conditions that are different from your neighbor. And you want to try to get them to overlap and reward you heavily for certain things. And then you really want to go after those red houses if that's what you've chosen to pursue. Sure. Where some people play more into the map and the spatial element, 1 point for each park area you have or for your largest park area. So again, a lot of variety of scoring. And then the game also introduced a unique city board each game, which changes what the common objectives that everybody are going on for. So a lot of personal scoring, but then also competing for some common objectives. So very intuitive, quick to play, build your own scoring.
Excellent. Well, next up for me is Concordia. It came out in 2013 from Matt Gertz. And this is a game we talked about a lot. This is probably one of my favorite games of all time. And one of the games I still do not own a copy of it, although that might change relatively soon. We'll see. Again, Matt Gertz, brilliant game designer. Concordia, wonderful game, getting a super deluxe version on GameFound. And basically, the game comes down to more or less like trading in the Mediterranean. So you have ships, you have people that are running around the Mediterranean to set up trading posts, and then trading resources back and forth to be able to allow you to explore more and score victory points. Where this really comes down to, as far as like scoring your own particular pathway and success, is every card that you use to take an action on the bottom of the card has a scoring opportunity that will possibly, again, if you have a lot of that particular type of card, you'll kind of be able to kind of like multiply that kind of particular effect. So there's Saturn cards, the Minerva cards, Mars cards. Again, there are all these different types of cards that are particular to a certain type of action card in the game. Now, generally, and at least at the start of the game, you're going to have one of everything. But as the game goes on, you're going to choose from the market what cards you're going to put into your deck and then play those cards in the game in order to benefit from that particular action. But at the same time, you are also choosing how you're going to score the game. The victory points in the game come from these cards. Like 99% of them are from these cards. So if you get a Minerva card that scores points off brick, then that's the focus there. Or if you get Saturn cards, that's your focus there. So again, really depending on what you're building towards is how you're going to win that particular game. It's such a really wonderful, unique strategy where you're taking actions, you're using the market, you're scoring points, and all the actions and all the combinations are all combined. So at the end of the game, you're like, I did a lot of this thing, and it turns out this thing scores me a lot of points. And that's really what you want to do because, again, that was your strategy.
I agree. Concordia is a fantastic game, and what is otherwise elements you've seen before, that whole scoring mechanic just really turns it on its head and makes it far more fascinating. So heavily endorse Concordia as well. My next one, I'm not sure you guys have talked about on the podcast. It's called Far Away. It was released in 2023. And it was actually nominated for the 2025 Kennerspiel DR, interestingly enough. We were talking about that earlier. So this is one of last year's nominations. The designer also did another game which could have made this list called Pixies, which I won't talk about today, but is also a great build your own scoring kind of game, point salad kind of game. But in Far Away, you're going to get 8 cards that you're going to draft from against other players. They have a variety of symbols on them, resources, day or night symbols, colors, and you're going to play those cards in a row from left to right. The trick is most of the cards have scoring conditions you have to meet to unlock the ability to score whatever that card's going to reward you for. So I might need a pineapple and a skull on some other cards, but if I have them, then all my rocks are going to be worth 2 points. So the trick of the game is those conditions are known. You play from left to right, and as you put that card down early, it says, oh, I know I need that rock and that skull or the pineapple in the skull. I have 7 more cards to get those. Oh, now I have 6 more cards, 5 more cards. The trick being, at the end of the game, you flip them all over and reveal them from right to left. So the only ones that count are cards that come before it in the red right to left order, which makes for a fascinating sort of brain puzzle in terms of, well, I need this or that, but I don't have it yet. The one wrinkle is you can, if you play your next card as a number higher than the preceding one, you get an additional permanent card as Sanctuary that doesn't flip. So it's always available. Its color, its symbols, to help you meet the condition of your core 8 cards. So it's a fascinating puzzle of trying to meet conditions to unlock. I see a lot of games when people first start, I just can't get this to work. And I will say that's a downside. People can get frustrated in their first couple of plays. But if you're a gamer who is willing to put a few plays into a very quick game, like it's only 20, 30 minutes, I feel this game really pays off in terms of allowing a variety of strategies. You have to be adaptable to what's coming out in the market. You cannot play the game the same way every time. So Far Away, it'd be a buy for me, but a lot of people I've taught it to are a little frustrated by the first couple plays. So I guess just know that going in.
Excellent. We'll definitely have to check that out. All right. Well, next for me is, again, we talked about Point Salad, and you can't talk about Point Salad or Point Salad games without talking about Stefan Feld. And Stefan Feld has probably the greatest ludology as far as games in which you decide what you're scoring and how you're scoring it. One of the games I want to talk about is one of the games that more recent, so that people could actually pick it up and find it, is, I feel, his best game in his current City Collection, I guess, production vibe arc of his ludology. This is Marrakesh. So this is all about influential families utilizing the city to gain power and resources. And the reason why I picked this out is because it's such an interesting, beautiful model here. This came out from Queen's Games in 2022. And basically what you're doing is you're going to take all these keshis, these little kind of player pieces out there on the board, as far as a kind of like a worker placement situation. And by choosing what you want to be able to take, you are going to offer yourself an opportunity in these rounds to be able to place these keshis in their particular areas. So you could focus on the date plantation and score dates for your keshis, but also, again, score victory points based on that particular focus. There's the mosque, the palace, which offers you an opportunity to race up the board. And again, also gain special abilities and resources, but also, yet one again, to score victory points. The large square, the Medina, the souk, the river, the madrasa, the Sahara. There's a lot of different areas that are all going to do relatively the same thing as far as scoring you resources, scoring you money, scoring you things that you'll need to do other things. But your particular focuses on the board in those particular areas is really where you're going to get the vast majority of your points. So it really allows you a lot of fun to kind of pick out where you want to go and what you want to do, kind of like Concordia in that particular way. And you don't have to kind of focus on any one particular area or one particular goal. And if something's being taken up by someone else somewhere else, you could take your keshi other places. So Marrakesh offers a lot of options and choices with a really kind of wonderful, bright, beautiful color presentation. But that's Marrakesh for you, to say the least. Tim's going to come back.
That's definitely one I want to try. I do like me some Feld, and I haven't had an opportunity to play that one, but I'm hoping to get it to the table.
Yeah, it's the best of his recent output.
Great. The last game I want to talk about, I did mention on last week's podcast, is a game that I really enjoyed back in the day. It's Viceroy from 2014. I will say I did go on to eBay and make sure this game is available. And yeah, you can find copies still out there. I think they printed quite a few. So I think it only would run you $20, $25 if you were keen on doing so. The thing I like about it, it does involve a little bit of a simple auction to obtain cards, but then you're building a pyramid out of them. So you can go wide and build next to each other, but as soon as you have two cards next to each other, they can support a card on a level above. Generally, the higher you go above, the greater the reward. That seems to be a theme in some of the games I'm talking about today. But it has some cool mechanics, trying to match edges to make gems of a certain color. And if you do so, they kind of act like Splendor, where they're a permanent currency of that color. And then as you're going, you're definitely building scoring conditions. So it's going to reward you for getting gems of a certain color. It's going to reward you for getting cards on a certain level of the pyramid. You can collect swords, which let you attack your opponents for a certain number of negative points for them unless they have shields to defend themselves. You can get scrolls or magic, which you have to then get separate tokens, which make those scrolls worth points. You can get law cards, which actually take up a spot in your pyramid and may score for certain type of cards around them, or for each card of this type in your pyramid score points. So it is just a wide variety of scoring opportunities. Which cards come out, where you put them in your pyramid. Every game is very different in terms of the opportunities it provides. And again, a quick play time, reasonably easy to teach. I have really still enjoyed this as probably a top 10 game of mine. So as far as point salads go, this would be up there for me.
Excellent. Love that. All right. And finally, for me, I want to talk about, I think, the game that really fully depicts the idea of you can play what you want to play and score what you want to score, and that's the entire game. This is Fantasy Realms. I'm going to talk about the deluxe edition for 2022 from Bruce Glasgow from WizKid Games. There's been a new version that came out we talked about, or Anthony talked about not too long ago. But the deluxe edition I really like best because it comes with a little expansion that you can kind of throw into play. And really, the game itself is pretty straightforward. This is a 2.0 on BGG. And basically what you're coming down to is it's a fantasy realm. It's generic fantasy. So that's not really too much of a thing. But primarily, you're going to get a hand of cards. And then on your turn, you're going to take a card, either from the stack or from the open market, what's available. And then you're going to play a card down. You're going to discard a card. Next person, again, they could take the card that you discarded. Or again, they can kind of like play their own card, discard your own card. That's basically the entire game. Play a card, discard a card, play a card, discard a card, until the market comes to an end. It gets full up. And then you're left with, again, depending on the variation of the game, 7 cards. And those 7 cards, and throughout the whole game, all you're doing is trying to figure out what combination of cards do you want to put together to score the most number of points possible. Has nothing to do with anyone else. Certainly you lose or gain certain cards based upon other players' actions into the market, but it's so much fun and it's so liberating to play cards out you do not want, because again, everything's going to score you points pretty much, but it's going to do a little bit more if you hold this card. And if you could only get that card, or if this card says it collects these type of cards, collect those type of cards, and you'll score a lot of points. So Fantasy Realms, the deluxe edition, is one of the best games out there for a quick playing, fast filler game that really anyone could enjoy.
I just looked it up. It was actually a Kenner Spiel nomination as well for the Spiel of the Year in 2021. So
nice.
We're weaving a theme throughout the episode. The Kenner Spiel definitely is games worth checking out, I think.
Definitely. All right. Well, there you go, everybody. Great games that you should get to the table because, again, you like to kind of build your own destiny, and these games allow you to do that. So check these games out, especially if you like Point Salad. These are some other great games. Until next time, this is Chris.
And this is Tim.
And we'll save you all a seat at the table. Take care, everyone.
Bye for now.